Hello and welcome to the 2018 Interscholastic Unified Outdoor Bocce District Tournament Host Operations Manual. This manual and accompanying webinar is our best effort to explain everything that's expected for each district tournament and to set each tournament director up for success in his or her administration of the tournament. So again, this is a webinar for the operations of the tournament, and then you have an accompanying PDF file that will be disseminated at the conclusion of the webinar. So for all of the participating school districts in outdoor bocce, the district tournament serves as that local school system's culminating experience for all of the athletes. So we, of course, want it to be a well-run event. With that being said, there are fundamental expectations that we have that must be a part of every tournament. And then outside of that, or in addition to that, there's some flexibility on what can be added, things such as concessions of that nature. That may not necessarily be a requirement, but as a tournament director, you may want to add it. So the host manual, of course, starts with the table of contents here for your reference if you wanted to go to a particular section. For the sake of time, I'll scroll down. And as I stated, the purpose of this manual is to outline the responsibilities for the district tournament director. Now, in terms of who directs and runs the tournament, ideally, the Unified Sports District Representative, which there's one for each school district, will serve as the tournament director. If there is an exceptional circumstance in which that district rep is unable to serve as the tournament director, then he or she has to appoint someone to serve in that role, and preferably someone who has knowledge and experience with tournament administration and game management. The duties of the tournament director is overall operation of the event, and then this entails ensuring that all policies, protocols, and competition rules are properly applied. The tournament director, at his or her discretion, can also appoint one school system professional to help prepare for the tournament leading up to it, and then on the actual day of the tournament, executing it. So this person cannot be an athletic director, nor can they be an administrator, as their normal duties fall under the realm of responsibilities of a district tournament director. And the person must also receive clearance as a Special Olympics Maryland Class A volunteer prior to the tournament. So that process of gaining clearance takes about 72 hours. But what would need to happen is any tournament director that's not a district representative, and any assistant tournament director, if not already done so, will need to email his or her information to Melissa Kelly at the email provided, mkelly@somd.org, no less than 1 week prior to the tournament. And then from there, she'll be able to inform you of the exact steps that need to be taken in order to gain that clearance. And assistant directors will receive a stipend of $75 for their time and effort. So here you have the mission, philosophy, and vision of Special Olympics Maryland. I won't spend much time on that, but overall, as you know, it's a year-round sports training program and athletic competition program that has a variety of Olympic-style sports for persons 8 years of age with various disabilities, and it's designed to give them opportunities to develop their fitness, demonstrate courage, experience joy, and participate in the sharing of gifts, skills, and friendships with families. So moving on, here is the contact information. So at the top, you have myself, Brian Montgomery. I serve as the Unified Bocce Chair for indoor and outdoor bocce. My email is provided as well as my cell phone number. Beneath that, you have each district representative for the counties that participate in outdoor bocce, along with their email addresses. Following is the Special Olympics Maryland staff. So you have 4 regional sports directors, each covering various counties, and of course Melissa Kelly, who serves as the senior sports director for all school programs. So moving on to the tournament itself, this is actually the first point of emphasis that I want to highlight. In 1988, Special Olympics was officially recognized by the IOC, and it is because of this relationship that Special Olympics is actually bound to include various components in each and every one of its competitions, to include this district tournament. And the first of which is an opening ceremony. And you really want to take this serious and make sure you have things in place to make it, one, credible, and two, exciting, because what it does is it sets the tone for the entire competition. So upon schools arriving and checking in, this is the first thing that all schools, coaches, officials, fans participate in together. And again, it sets the tone for the entire competition. So with that being said, a great opening ceremony increases the potential of the tournament itself from beginning to end being a great and exciting tournament. So there will be someone needed to serve as the master or mistress of ceremonies. That can be the tournament director herself or himself. That can be the district representative. That can be the host school coach or AD. Things of that nature are left to the tournament director to decide well in advance of the tournament. Make sure they're clear of what their roles are. So they need to be someone who is comfortable with speaking publicly, of course, someone who has enthusiasm and energy, and then someone who understands the importance of crowd involvement. So please use your best discretion when selecting and requesting this role to be filled. Beneath what you'll see in a minute is an actual opening ceremony script, and it's meant to be served as a template, so you can use it verbatim or you can modify it based according to your local school district's tournament. However, we do provide that template for you, so the person is able to have that at his or her disposal to use. Be sure to look over the opening ceremony script prior to the competition, just in case there are modifications that you as tournament director need to make sure are in place. And then, of course, make sure that your MC has a chance to review it for you to specify any directions and for him or her to ask any questions that are needed. Appointing tournament personnel to oversee the management of the opening ceremonies, of course, is essential. I strongly encourage that person be the tournament director, as I stated, with the importance of the opening ceremony being so high. You want to make sure that you, as tournament director, if you're not the person who is overseeing and emceeing the opening ceremony, then you want to make sure, of course, that you have a hand in making sure that it's run smoothly. Here is all of the counties that are participating in outdoor bocce with the corresponding district numbers, which you'll see the relevance of in a few pages down. A few roles that you'll also want to fill in addition to the MC. So the singing or playing of the national anthem. So depending on the resources you have available, may have an athlete or a partner who wishes to sing the national anthem. If not, you may want to play it from a speaker holding a microphone up to it so that it can be heard by all. The color guard, if available. And then you want to designate an athlete and a unified partner to read the athlete's oath, an official to read the official's oath, and then a coach to read the coach's oath, all of which are provided after the opening script. So here's what we discussed, the actual script itself. Again, make sure you read through it as tournament director, and make sure whomever your MC is reads through it to have a chance to become familiar with it. It basically provides an introduction. Of course, we won't read through it at this exact moment. But again, if yours needs to be modified for your local tournament needs, please feel free to do so. Here on this page, you'll see one of the things that the MC can say is, or should say, is the school name and mascot for each participating team. So, of course, coaches should know who their mascot is, but if not, we actually have that listed in this document for you to write in order for maximum preparation to be achieved. And this is more from the script. Now, within the script, what you'll see is there are some sections where the county or school system is to be stated. I don't think that personally that's for everyone, because some of the districts are one county. So, for example, Anne Arundel is its own district. So it may be a bit repetitive to continue to say Anne Arundel County, but then you have other districts that span across several counties. Of course, in those cases, this would fit. So again, here you have each of the three oaths that were aforementioned: the official's oath, the coach's oath, and the athlete's oath. And again, what you would do is you would just select someone prior to the tournament to cite this oath on the microphone. Of course, you would want to provide it for them so they can be fully comfortable with doing so. And then, of course, the exciting sentence: I now declare 2018 Interscholastic Unified Outdoor Bocce District. And we left that blank for you to fill in the appropriate district number from the table that was above open, and let the games begin. So another point of emphasis, of course, is the awards and the award ceremony. So each athlete or unified partner who participates in the district tournament shall receive an award. Medals are awarded for first through third place, of course, and then from fourth to eighth place, they receive ribbons. Coaches do not receive awards. If a player is officially registered for the competition but was unable to compete because of an injury or an illness, he or she shall receive an award for the same place of finish as his or her team. And please keep in mind that the rewards are earned and not just given. So if a player, for whatever reason, did not participate but was able to, then they shouldn't technically receive the award, because we want to stress participation for abled persons. And of course, just in general, the award ceremony should reflect the same dignity that you would see in the actual Olympics, because that's what serve as our model. Excuse me. So make sure in leading up to the district tournament and you're planning out of it that you're planning that award ceremony to be taken, seriously and reverently, to again mirror that of the Olympics itself. A student athlete who does participate but is disqualified or does not finish an event should be given a participation ribbon, regardless of what his or her teammates receive as a result of their places of finish. Awards protocol. This is different for different school districts. I think I would say that the most common restraint that causes variance is maybe the number of schools participating in a particular district, but also the amount of time that's allotted for your district tournament to commence and end. But you want your personnel to be in place and alert to setting up a table prior to the beginning of the tournament. So you want to designate all of these things that you'll see here in place prior to the tournament. And the most important part is having a plan for awards that's clearly communicated to all of the coaches so that at their setting or at their place of finish, they know exactly what to do. So if possible, you want to secure a 6-foot table where you'll place all of the awards. And ideally, you'll want to have one tray for each of the awards, for each place to finish for the awards. For example, all of the first place medals will be on one tray, second place medals will be on another tray, so on and so forth. Makes for ease of distribution as teams finish. As each team's place of finish is determined, results should be delivered to the awards preparation area. And again, you as tournament director, that's something that you would want to have in place. So we'll get to this a little bit later, but you should have a control center where scores from each match are being reported. But then you should also have something in place so once an actual team finishes their competition and earns a place of finish, that gets communicated to the awards table or the awards staging area, depending on, the human capital that you have available to do so. If possible, you can have law enforcement or honored guests to present the awards. At the state tournament, we always have law enforcement to present the awards. So if possible, it would be great if you could do that. If not, maybe an honored guest or VIP can do so. And then number 5 on this page is a note on presenters. I won't read through it in detail, but basically what you will have is you can have someone announcing the awards, and awards bearer, and then someone who presents each athlete with the award. And ideally, what you would want that person to do is to, after the team places their finish and they approach the awards staging area, when it's their time to receive their awards, processed in the single file line, and then have the presenter drape the ribbon or medal, around each athlete's head to their neck and shake their hand. So again, that mirrors how it's done at the state tournament. If possible, you can have Olympic fanfare music as the awards processional is going on. Again, it makes for a great atmosphere, and it brings great joy to the athletes, actually, to hear that music and for it to be a part of the reception of their awards. A special note on receiving awards: when it's receiving awards, student athletes ideally should still be in their uniforms that they competed in. So that needs to be, within reason, free of jackets and headwear and anything that wasn't used, headsets, cell phones, earphones during competition, and basically overall look presentable. So here we've provided for you an announcer's script when distributing the awards. And you'll see, I'll just use 8th place, for example. In 8th place from Anne Arundel County, and then you'll have the mascot and the high school name. So it's there for you. Again, if it's just one county, it's up to you if you want to continue to announce that county. If it's a district that has multiple counties, then please do announce each county. So there's the script. Of course, encourage your announcer, if it's not you, to reverently call each student athlete's name in a way where uh, they hear it clearly and recognize their name being called. So you want to pause in between each athlete. Of course, not too long of a pause, but you want to make sure it's long enough where everybody gets recognized, gets acknowledged, and gets the deserved fanfare. And here, as I discussed earlier, is the list of participating schools, school systems, and corresponding mascots. So section 2 of the manual is focused on actual management of the tournament, and I'll just go down the list. So admission, of course, attendees are not to be charged for admission as would be for maybe varsity sporting event, and there should be no parking fees or any similar fees for people to spectate. In terms of artificial noisemakers, I know we're outside, but no air horns or artificial noisemakers are allowed. That includes music while the match is in progress. And that's very important for you as a tournament director to monitor and also to keep in mind, because you may have staff who is responsible for playing music, at a certain time, the national anthem in between matches, and you have to remind them that during actual match play, there should not be any type of music going on. Of course, national anthem and color guard, we went through that. Neutrality. So most competitions are held at one of the participating schools within that particular district. But please keep in mind that the district tournament is not a home event for that school. So doing as much as possible to promote neutrality is very important. Items such as signage that can be reasonably, removed or taken down to create a neutral atmosphere as opposed to more of a home atmosphere. Please, within your power, adhere to, of course, no alcoholic beverages or tobacco. And then also keep in mind the Americans with Disabilities Act, which of course is very relevant for what it is that we do. And the main thing is you want to kind of peruse your facility to make sure that there are no inhibitions or limitations or restrictions of access for persons with disabilities. Of course, most facilities are already in compliance with that, but you as tournament director want to ensure that you're aware of that so that when coaches, parents, athletes ask you questions about where things are, access to certain things, you're able to provide them answers promptly. Concessions. So this again was one of the amenities that can be added to your event. It does make for a great atmosphere, I must say. But food and beverage prices, if you do have them, should be comparable to any other sporting event that host facility will put on. And then, of course, directional signage. So this kind of goes along with what I talked about a few seconds ago. You want to make sure that it's clear where buses are to park, where teams are to enter, where teams are to sit, where spectators are to sit, where bathrooms are. So the more clear signage that you can have for these type of items, the better it is for your event, better it is for all participants, coaches, players, spectators, so that they can know where to go. So moving on, section 3 is actually the management of the competition itself. So as stated in the 2018 Unified Outdoor Bocce Coaches Resource Guide, each school system is assigned to a district, and what happens is each district is given a certain number of allocations to advance to the state tournament. So at the state tournament, you'll have 32 teams competing, and those teams advance from this district tournament. The state tournament is actually held on Tuesday, May 22nd at Washington College, and that serves as the last piece to the bocce season. So it's really the grand finale, culminating piece to the bocce outdoor season. So the allocations will be communicated to each tournament director, and they're in proportion to the number of teams that participate total statewide. So I expect to have those numbers to district reps for those who are serving as tournament directors. And then I'll also make sure that tournament directors who are not district reps will receive those numbers. And those are important because those are what are used to set your tournament brackets up for competition. So what we do is say a particular district based on the total numbers of teams participating and the number of total teams participating in that district receives 4 allocations. Ideally, for your district tournament, what you would do is you would set up 4 different divisions, and then the gold medalists from each of those divisions would advance to the state tournament. Sometimes based on either time constraints or the number of teams that are participating in a district tournament, that method can be adjusted. So in some cases, you may have a district that doesn't have an adequate number of teams to have one division for each gold medalist, or have each gold medalist advance to the state tournament, I should say. So in certain cases, it may be the gold and the silver medalist of a particular division that advances to the state. But this is something that the tournament director, district rep, and myself can collaborate in calculating and determining. Roster consistent. Excuse me, let me back up. So before the opening ceremonies, so schools, of course, will arrive hopefully around the same time. But what you want to do is you want to have a brief coaches meeting on site prior to opening ceremony. And this is something that you can communicate to your coaches. We have a supplement here provided for you to send out as an example. And it just huddles all coaches together to make sure everyone is on the same page and make sure expectations are consistent and clear before the actual start of the ceremony. In terms of each team's roster, the playing roster for each team, it must be consistent with the roster as it appears on what is called the Interscholastic Bocce Postseason Registration Form. So district reps, of course, you'll know what that is. Tournament directors, the form will actually look like this, and we'll be sure that you have it in advance. But as you can see, this actually serves as the official roster for the district tournament that you'll be over. And the playing roster for that day must be consistent with this. So if someone is not on this particular form, then they should not be participating that day. And again, you'll receive these forms in due time to prepare for your tournament. So I talked about the competition brackets. In terms of match results, so each match is over either when a team reaches 16 total points or a previously designated time limit has expired. So ideally, that time limit is 30 minutes. If it needs to be reduced for time constraints, we just ask that it's reduced no less than 20 minutes. So at the minimum, the clock should be set at 20 minutes. But again, ideally, you want the matches to be 30 minutes, and that's when the match is over, unless a team reaches 16 total points, at which that will be the conclusion of the match, and that team will be declared the winner. Of course, if that point total is not reached and The ending of the match is based off of time elapsed, and then the team with the highest point total is declared the winner. For your tournament, when setting up your brackets, you must set them up in a way where each team plays no less than 2 matches. And a note on that, an important note on that, as chair, that's one of my responsibilities and roles to make sure as tournament director and district rep that you're fully supported in creating your competition brackets. So if you need me to create them for you, if you just want guidance on how to do so, please feel free to reach out to me. In a few pages, you'll see how the brackets actually look. And I'm more than willing and actually enjoy helping you all set your brackets for that. Overtime. So at the end of time, so a match ends and the score is tied, then one additional frame shall be played to determine the winner. Please also keep in mind that there needs to be a declaration of the last frame. So at the end of the time for matches, no new frame is to begin. So if a particular match is in the middle of a frame and time expires, then it should be declared that this is now the last frame. Please do not begin a new frame at the conclusion of this current frame. In the event that a tournament director judges a delay of game, additional time may be added to the regulation time that's already allotted. Again, that's at the discretion of the tournament director. So, of course, with the integrity of the games, you as tournament director want to make sure that every effort is made to uphold the dignity and integrity of a competition, and that includes maintaining the rules. So, attached or within this document, we actually have the rules. And if you're a tournament director who may not be a district rep and you want to touch base with me after this presentation regarding specifics of the rules, to make sure that you're fully aware of them, I'm more than available to do so. But you do want to make sure that you're fully aware of the rules in order to properly oversee the event. And again, the rules are listed in the coach's resource guide, which we can provide or will provide to all tournament directors. As I stated earlier, you want to designate an area to be your control center, and it can serve and should serve several functions. So the first function you want it to serve is to be where teams check in upon arriving to your location or the host facility. And then it also will serve as where scores and protests are reported and any general questions that someone may have. I talked about results earlier. Make sure you have a way to efficiently and orderly receive, tabulate, and post your match results. So that's another big one for tournaments. Having a way to make the results of each match visible really adds to the atmosphere of your tournament, to see the athletes and coaches able to approach that particular area to see where their team has advanced, who they're playing next, what time they're playing, what court they're on, helps to make for a great tournament. Scratches. Scratches do need to be reported upon check-in. So say a team has 10 people on their roster and one person was not able to show up upon team check-in, then that coach should communicate to tournament personnel that this particular player is a scratch for all matches, and it shouldn't be that the coach waits until the actual match itself to communicate that. If a particular team, because of scratches, falls below the required 4 players, then that team can still participate, but they will have to forfeit their games as that would be considered an exhibition match. Protest. Make sure you have a system set up for protest, which we provide, but make sure I should say that it's communicated clearly to the coaches. So in the event that a coach wants to protest, he or she must do so within 15 minutes of the completion of the match. And that protest must be in written form to the control center. And what can be protested is a misinterpretation of a rule, but not a judgment call by an official. And also, prior to opening ceremony, I think it's best to do it at the coaches meeting to designate a sports rule committee to be on standby to make a decision on any protest that might come in. So that can consist of two coaches, any Special Olympics personnel who may be present for your event, and if possible, one athlete and one unified partner. You also want to have a plan for inclement weather. So I know most districts have a backup date, an inclement weather date in the event that weather does not permit you to have your tournament on the originally scheduled date. Then coaches know that there's a postponement date. But what you also want to do is have a clear plan to communicate that message to your coaches. So we do provide a state fact sheet that you can use, or you can use it in your email communication to the coaches that in the event of inclement weather, if the tournament needs to be postponed, this is how we will communicate that to you. So most people use email. Some people use a text system, text messages. But whatever your plan is, a tournament director, make sure that you communicate it to them. And me, myself as Bocce chair, I do have mass communication abilities with everyone. So if you needed to shoot me a message, you could do so, and then I can disseminate that to the people who needs to receive it. Section 5 will be provided is a tournament checklist for your use. It's basically most things are what we've already talked about, but what you want to communicate to your coaches and to your teams that are participating prior to the tournament is, of course, the start time and date. You also want to communicate a plan for equipment. So you'll have multiple courts being used at your district tournament, and you'll need to designate which teams are to bring their own courts and their own balls. And please don't wait to the last minute to do this. If you need support in this, you can reach out to District Rep Special Olympics representative in doing so, but you want to make sure that it's clear who is to bring what equipment. Of course, we want to provide a competition schedule, driving directions, and the tournament location. And then you also want to make it clear to the coaches what the food service plan is. So if concessions will be available, of course, you want to provide that information to the coaches. You want to provide if vending machines are available, or if coaches should stress and emphasize to their team to make sure they bring a bagged lunch, because food will not be provided. And on that note, what you'll also receive in the follow-up email to this is a district tournament fact sheet. So I just pulled one of the ones that a district is using. This is actually a PDF file, but what I'll do is I'll send it out in a Word format, and then you can modify it to fit your particular school district. And it just serves as a fact sheet to communicate information that we just talked about to the coaches. Of course, you want to have a plan for medical emergencies. So that includes all medical personnel. And even though you are the host tournament, all coaches are still responsible for following their school district's policies for bringing the appropriate medical equipment, first aid kits with them. But you as tournament director do want to make sure you have a plan in place in the case of a medical emergency. We already talked about direction signage. If possible, you want to ensure that adequate water stations are set up. As we know, in April and May, it can possibly be kind of hot on a particular day. So you want to make sure there's adequate water available for all participants. Check with the facility to make sure that the PA system is functional and working properly. She talked about the opening ceremonies, and then moving on to the competition. So your officials, different school systems uh, approach this differently. So some school systems are able to solicit volunteers to be officials. Ideally, you would want it to be someone that is knowledgeable about the sport of bocce to serve as an official. However, if individuals um, are not knowledgeable, they're available, we do have a form in which you can use to train them on the rules of bocce so that they can adequately officiate. If in the event that officials are not able to be secured, then of course coaches can serve as officials. Just make sure, as tournament director, you spell out the expectations of proper officiating for a coach. You want to also make sure that there's a common clock. Excuse me, it says gymnasium, but of course this is outside, so most people use the scoreboard that's on the field. You want to make sure that there is a common clock that's being used, and have someone who is able to operate it. They'll of course be working in sync with the PA announcer to announce the game, and announce the start of the game and be able to run the clock properly. You also want to have a way to have the score of each match displayed at all times. Um, so there is a form that's a part of this document. Supplement B is the Unified Bocce Score Sheet, which an official can use, uh, like maybe as a part of a clipboard, and the coach can check it. If possible, you would want to have a larger viewing of the score available to coaches. If you need assistance with that, just reach out to me and let me know. But of course, you want to make sure that the scores for coaches as well as for players are always visible. Here again is that roster that we discussed, the Interscholastic Bocce postseason registration form. Just made it a part of this document so that you can be familiar with how it looks. And then you have your court marking. So all coaches and district reps are or should be more than familiar with how a court should be set up, but we have provided it here for you. So on each side, you want to have a foul line, and then you want to have a ramp fault line. And this line is for any athletes who may use a ramp to deliver their bocce ball. Of course, they cannot cross that line or the vertical plane that's created by that line. You have the mid-court line as well. And then you also want to have elevated markings. Mostly that's in the form of a cone at each foul line. It makes it easier to see where the lines are for coaches and athletes. And here is supplement A that we discussed. So this is an agenda that can be sent out as a part of that fact sheet so that coaches know what to expect. And of course, one of the first activities you will have is teams arriving in, checking in, and then the location and time of your coaches meeting and the agenda for your coaches meeting. And of course, you'll have the opening ceremony and competition begin. So again, you can use this as a template to create a pregame timeline so that everyone is on the same page as much as possible. Supplement B is a quick reference guide for officials. So again, you as tournament director and then your officials can use this guide in order to make sure that all officials are fully equipped to officiate each bocce match. One thing that I did forget to admit is very important for all coaches at check-in to communicate to tournament personnel any accommodations that any of their athletes or partners may need. Again, at the time of checking in, all coaches need to communicate any accommodations that an athlete on his or her team may have that will be needed to be executed during match play. So that's one point at one point in which that should be communicated. Another point is before each match. the opposing coach should be made aware of what accommodation that a player on another team has. So again, these are the rules for a quick reference guide for officials. And here you have the score sheet, supplement C. So each official or designated scorekeeper should have one of these. It makes it easy to keep track of which team scored which points during which frames. So it's a great tool. Make sure, please, that it's used. And then as I stated, here are what the actual brackets look like. So we've provided several brackets and types of brackets depending on the needs of your particular district. But you have a 2-team round robin bracket. There's a 3-team round robin bracket. Then there's also a 3-team elimination bracket, so on and so forth. And what you use is at your discretion, but again, it'll be in accordance with the number of allocations that your district receives. And again, I am more than willing to set these for you or to assist you in setting them. And we've provided it here in this document, but it's actually also available in a PowerPoint that can just easily be typed on and then saved as a PDF file and disseminated to be communicated to the coaches and to print out for the district tournaments themselves. And that concludes the webinar on the manual. I'll unmute everybody, see if anyone had questions. So I see we have a few people on. Does anyone have any questions? Questions, comments? All right. If not, thanks to everyone for attending. Again, there'll be a follow-up email with this document and the state tournament sheet. And I hope that everyone got something from this. And if you need to follow up with me on a particular question, please feel free to do so. Thank you.